Hey everybody, my name is Emily Green and I'm an EMDR trained psychotherapist here in Central Florida. Today's mini mental health check-in is going to be geared towards relationship help. You're going to learn 2 exercises that you can use to strengthen your relationship in this time of stress. You're going to learn how to take communication patterns that tend to be conflictual or frictiony and turn them into cooperation in moments of closeness. So how do you do that? You do it through the walk and talk and being a mirror. I will note that these are geared towards intimate relationships or partner relationships, but they can totally be tweaked to meet the needs of like roommates or friendships or even relationships you have with your kids. Example is going to be intimate, but you can totally tweak it. So one of the things that happens when we're under stress, relationships really feel it. And then it can create more friction because it's heightening or magnifying all of the stressors in people's lives. So what are some things that you can do to help strengthen your relationship, to help lessen the anxiety or the stress levels, and really build up more teamwork and closeness? Well, the first exercise is one of my favorites. It's one I use a lot because it not only helps the couple, but it helps the individual as well. One of the things happens when we hear the 4 most dreaded words are, we need to talk, or we need to talk. Our defenses get turned on. And when our defenses get turned on, we're not really good listeners and we get in protective mode. So how do we build a better bridge to communication that allows for people to share more freely and then also makes it easier to receive feedback? Well, one of the things that you can do on the walk and talk is you're helping in a way that's kind of unconscious because it's about body positions. So you can see how this chair is going to be my husband. And when we're geared towards facing like this, if we're talking, it's setting us up against each other. So we're kind of gearing up more for me versus you. But if we're walking together, the body positions are joining in the same direction. And when we're also walking with a destination, which is purposeful. All of those things really does work to create those underlining or unconscious messaging that helps couples go from feeling more like we're gearing up, I gotta win this, to, oh, we're just walking somewhere together and it's easier to receive information. Depending on where you are right now and what your restrictions are because of the pandemic, you can totally adapt this as needed. If you're allowed to go outside, I think it's really helpful, but if you can't, just find your most spacious room and you can walk. And if you're starting laughing at each other or with each other because look at us, we're walking in a room doing this activity, that levity can really break the ice and the tension too. So if you can, I encourage you to go outside, but if you're limited, follow those rules. So keep it inside in a bigger room or a hallway, or walk within your yard or courtyard. So what's happening also on this one that I really like and benefit from is it's very self-regulating for the individual. So if I'm hearing my husband saying like, we need to talk, I'm immediately going into, oh shit, there's a problem. There's a problem. There's most likely going to be a fight where you could see it's upping my anxiety levels. So when I'm walking, it's helping me out and my partner's stress response because this is a very calming activity. Why is walking such a calming activity? Well, it's doing things to the body that are just really good for it. You're crossing your body's midline with your arms because your gait's having your arms swaying, the rhythmic back and forth of the bounce of your steps. Again, it's stimulating those 2 different sides of the body, which is just very regulating. It feels good. So when you're walking and talking, when you're taking your relationship on a walk, you're helping out your partnership because you're both facing the same direction, which gives a sense of teamwork and bonding, and then you're purposely walking and you're heading somewhere. So it's giving off this, hey, we can solve this. The other task, oh, and again, you're regulating your own stress response just by simply walking side by side. So that's good for you and it's good for the couple. The next exercise can be a little harder to implement, and just know if it's harder for you, just notice that and recognize it means it's a new skill you can learn. So when it's a new skill and it's outside of your kind of normal way of being, it's going to make sense that it'll feel a little weird. So just notice how weird or maybe how resistant you are to being a mirror. Because what's really different, and it's a good different, is being a mirror, it takes away the blame. But sometimes it might actually feel like it's doing the opposite. So being a mirror, the goal is just to listen and reflect back what you hear your partner say. Now, for some of us, that might be really easy because we're like, oh, I can totally do that. For others, maybe for us, it makes us feel like we're then saying, what, am I just a doormat? It's like, just notice that. The point of being a mirror isn't to say someone's winning or someone's losing, which a lot of times is the way that we function in relationship dynamics. The point of being a mirror is to create a cooperation communication that is built on intimacy, listening to each other, and creating that sense of being heard or being known. We all know how powerful those experiences are, but it can be really hard to create those moments in relationships, especially when we're under stress. So if this part's hard, it's totally okay. You can work on it and actually get better and better at it. So what does that look like? So this is my husband, and we're walking and talking, and he's saying something like, let me see, this is probably pretty common. I come home, I'm really stressed from work, and then I see the house is a mess, and it just makes me really mad. Well, immediately, I might be thinking like, well, who the heck does he think he is? What, am I a maid? It's not my job. You can imagine if I verbalized that or gave off those vibes, it would really shut him down. So what's another way that I can better our communication? And it's being a mirror. So if I'm being a mirror, the goal is here just to reflect back. So I could simply say, oh, it sounds like, you had a real stressful day at work, and then you came home and you saw how kind of crazy everything was or out of place, and it just made that a lot worse. He would probably say something like, yeah, that's exactly how I feel. And I could go, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. You can see the difference in being a mirror is I'm not launching in defenses. I'm not shutting him down, and I'm not going into protective mode. I'm actually creating more openness and permission for him to share his experience. I think the kicker here is for those of us who are in this activity being the mirror, it's hard not to feel like you're then taking blame or ownership for it. What can happen as you practice this, you can recognize that you're not responsible for your partner's feelings, but what you can help them with is just being able to share that experience. So a next step I could put on this is I could say, well, what do you think would help you feel better? He might say, man, maybe if like I came home and the house was like a little more put together. And then I could say, well, yeah, the house might look, if it was better and make me feel good too, but man, I don't have time to do that before you get home because I've got the kids and I'm doing homeschooling right now and working. Well, what could we do together to make that easier? You could see what you're doing is you're then coming together and joining to problem solve the solution. That again is kind of like that next step, so you don't have to feel like you jump on that, but that's just kind of a direction where this can go. So one of the things that I like to tell people that can kind of help them get started, just kind of rolling this system out, is to, of course, just start the walk and talk, but on being a mirror, you can pick up like a stick and have that be your baton, so it's your turn. So if it's my husband, he's holding the stick, and I know, okay, when he's holding the stick, it's his turn, and then it's my turn to be a mirror, and then we can switch. And then I get to share like, yeah, it's really hard because I'm stressed out, because I'm taking over the kids' schooling, I'm still working from home, and man, that's really stressful. The house is stressing me out, but I just can't do it all. So then it would be his turn to be a mirror, and he would reflect back what he heard me say. So you could see like this kind of switcheroo, taking turns, is also building teamwork, and it's building trust. It's building trust that we're going to be able to listen to each other, to create moments of closeness where it doesn't feel like we have to dismiss other people's experience or kind of like trump each other and say, well, you think you have it bad, I've got it bad. So what this does, it's just really, it's ways to help build up better pathways in relationships so that when you do have a problem, instead of creating friction, you can actually learn how to come together and move forward. The walk and talk, I think, is probably going to be the easiest one. The mirror is going to be a little bit of a stretch, but that's totally okay because you can learn how to do new things. If you notice that you're resistant to any of these, just notice that. And maybe you can start to look underneath that and see where that resistance comes from. Does it come from a place where you're like, well, if I'm reflecting back, then that means I'm saying you win? And just notice that. That win mentality can be a really hard road to navigate in relationships. It's one a lot of us all have to deal with. But what these activities can do is it just takes the win and then the loser out of the situation, and it creates a space for both people to be in a relationship, to be individuals, and to learn how to come together even when it's hard. I hope this was helpful, and I wish you all well.